In any given room, you can spot a clear divide. Some people grasp a complex shift almost instantly, while others require constant repetition and explanation just to find their footing. We usually look at this gap and assume it's a fixed reality of the genetic lottery. We tell ourselves that some people were simply born with a high-speed processor, and the rest were born into a life of confusion. Modern neuroscience suggests something different. Intelligence behaves less like a fixed number and more like a dynamic capacity. It expands or contracts based on the specific mental habits you choose to practice every day. Many of the behaviors we associate with a low IQ, like struggling to follow a logic chain or getting easily confused, often stem from a brain that has been conditioned to choose the path of least resistance. When a mind avoids every instance of struggle, it loses the ability to handle complexity. Unlocking a sharper mind requires a shift in how you navigate your day. It means moving away from the default setting of ease and deliberately introducing what researchers call cognitive friction. Think about the hours spent scrolling through dozens of short videos today. If you try to recall a single insight from that feed that you've actually used or applied, the result is usually a blank. This volume of consumption often happens without a single moment of active processing. This problem worsens when we refuse to step outside of our immediate interests. By ignoring topics like history, science, or business, we miss the opportunity to challenge the brain with entirely new frameworks and patterns. This diagram shows how the brain generates intelligence. It doesn't just store individual facts in isolation. It works by drawing links between distinct data points from different fields to form a unified, complex web of understanding. Without the friction of pausing to question or analyze what you see, your brain remains a passive vessel for noise rather than a tool for insight. Modern technology has made it effortless to outsource our thinking. The moment a problem feels difficult, whether it's a math equation or a technical glitch, the instinct is to immediately reach for a search engine or a friend for the answer. We even avoid the struggle in our conversations. We often find ourselves arguing blindly to protect our ego from the discomfort of being wrong, or agreeing with the majority just to avoid the friction of a disagreement. This illustrates a process called desirable difficulty. Research shows that new neural pathways form specifically when the brain is forced to navigate resistance. When the mind hits a barrier and struggles to find a solution, it responds by building these new, thicker connections. You can trigger this growth by using the 10-minute rule. Before you look up an answer or ask for help, commit to fighting the problem independently for 10 minutes. By avoiding this struggle, you are denying your brain the biological resistance it needs to increase its capacity. Many people claim they have a weak memory, yet they can effortlessly recall the plot twists and dialogue of a movie they saw months ago. The struggle only seems to appear when they try to remember something they studied just yesterday. Movies provide a constant stream of visual and emotional cues that keep the brain highly engaged. Passive reading, however, lacks that intensity. Without high engagement, the brain assumes the information isn't important enough to warrant the energy required for long-term storage. This chart compares two ways of learning. The sharp drop-off represents passive reading. The upward spikes come from active recall, closing your notes and forcing yourself to explain the concept from scratch. This self-testing creates the mental strain necessary to save the data. Most memory issues are the result of choosing the comfort of passive review over the productive friction of active retrieval. There is a common belief that high performance requires constant, focused busyness. In this view, any moment spent not working is a waste of potential. Scientists have identified a different mode of operation called the default mode network. This state activates only when you stop focusing on a task. In this resting state, the brain begins to bridge the gaps between distant ideas. This background processing is why a solution to a complex problem often appears during a quiet walk, a shower, or right after waking up. Effective thinking requires a balance. You need the friction of intense work, but you also need mental silence, allowing the brain to process what it has learned. Those who understand effortlessly have spent years building a habit of seeking mental challenge, training their minds to operate in a state of quiet determination. A low IQ mindset is a description of a set of behaviors, habits of choosing ease over effort. Because these are patterns of behavior, they can be changed through consistent practice. The next time you feel the strain of a difficult task, recognize that sensation for what it is. That mental weight is the primary driver of your brain's growth. When you encounter a problem you can't solve, resist the urge to find the easiest way out. Let your brain do the work and embrace the friction.